Hello everyone, my name is Waffle and welcome to the 14th episode of Strats Explained, Magically Easy, a video series where I explain how and why different strats and glitches that speedrunners use work. Today we are going to talk about Firefighter in GTA Vice City. As you know, you need to complete 12 levels, and usually doesn't take longer than 15 minutes. However, if you fail something, you'll have to start over. There are a few methods that allow you to complete this side mission in a faster and safer way. Some of them are platform specific because they rely on things like replays, and some work across all platforms and versions. Today we are talking about one of these. I don't know if this method has a proper name, but it's basically completing Firefighter using the Ammu-Nation menu. Hardware stores where you can buy different tools also work. The process is shown on the screen right now. We're basically scrolling through the weapons and levels are getting completed automatically. Let me first show how to do it. It's actually not hard. First of all, we start Vigilante and get out of the vehicle. Now we have 1 minute to reach the Ammu-Nation marker. Activate it and wait for Vigilante to finally fail. Now we get the controls back, but unfortunately our position is frozen. To fix this, we need to save the game. On PC you can prepare a replay where you pick up the save icon. Remember, the icon must be located in the same district as Ammu-Nation. I explained why in one of the previous episodes, link is on the screen and in the description. After you save the game, you still won't be able to move, but all you have to do now is just reload the save file. And look, the menu is still here and we can finally move. On mobile, you don't even need Vigilante, you can just trigger the autosave. Unfortunately, we couldn't capture that, but on Android you can either open the Quick Settings panel, that's the menu at the top, or the App Overview, that is pressing the square button if you use the 3-button navigation. I would imagine that iOS is similar. Definitive Edition is so nice that it's going to make an autosave for you after Vigilante fails. But what do the real gamers who are playing on a PS2 need to do? Here it's a bit different. First of all, you need to prepare a bike in a way that you can get on it as soon as you cancel the menu. Now we're waiting for Vigilante to fail, but remember, getting on a bike uses the same button as cancelling the menu does. So before pressing triangle, we press and start holding X. That will also allow you to turn freely. Now we need to get to any save icon. Since we're holding acceleration, I suggest you to slow down using the handbrake, because if you fall off your bike, you won't be able to get up and get back on it. When you finally reach a safe house, you release X and immediately press triangle to get off the bike and pick up the icon. Alright, now we have the Ammu-Nation menu and we can move. What's next? We need to get to a fire truck. I suggest simply running there. Be careful not to press left or right, because that will teleport you back to Ammu-Nation and you won't be able to move again. Once at the fire truck, first press the buy weapon button and then immediately get in the vehicle one. Now you can start Firefighter and scroll through the menu. As far as I know, this method isn't used much in full game speedruns, because on the PC OG version speedrunners obviously use replays, and on other versions they use Vercetti state. However, the Ammu-Nation menu itself is used in individual level speedruns because it allows you to teleport through the whole map. And it looks like it's time to start the explanation, but if you paid enough attention, you would notice that the fires aren't extinguished on any scroll. They're only extinguished when we scroll back to the first one. And yes, if I scroll back and forth between the first and the second one, fires are getting extinguished much quicker. Completing the mission this way is going to take you around a minute, plus time to set up the menu. But obviously there is no way to fail the mission. Let's start at the Firefighter script. We're going to look at the create the fire scene bit. First of all, we obviously create a car, and then we set it on fire using start car fire. We create a driver. As we progress with the levels, the game spawns additional passengers. As we progress even further, the game spawns additional cars, and so on. After that, the game is waiting for us to extinguish at least one fire, and it does all of these checks in the main loop that is called Fire Truck Mission Loop. As you can imagine, at higher levels you are going to have multiple cars that are on fire at the same time, and you need to do checks on all of them. One approach is write all of the checks for the first car, then simply copy and paste the code as many times as needed and change the first car to other cars. That is a bad approach. First of all, your code becomes much longer than it needs to be. Second, you can forget to change something and your code becomes broken. What you should do and what programmers do, they isolate such checks into separate functions. How does it work? Here, as you can see, we have a doFireOnCarBit function. We can pass a car we want to check as a parameter. It can be any car, the first one, the third one, it doesn't matter. Then the function performs all of the checks on that car that we just passed, maybe returns some value, and we can progress further. I know this code still looks a bit messy, but that's simply because of their own script language limitations that were fixed in later games, but that's irrelevant. What's relevant are the checks that are inside of this function, so what does it actually check? Let's see. Alright, first of all we check if the car is not dead, so if the car is still alive. If not, is script fire extinguished, so the fire is still going. The game is going to heal the car. That is simply so it doesn't blow up before you even get to the fire scene. But if you already extinguish the fire, then it's gonna register fire extinguished. Pretty simple. Okay, but what about pedestrians? Well, you guessed it, there is a separate function that is called doFireOnPedBit. What does it do? Well, let's see. Here we once again check if not is char dead, so if the character is still alive, then if not is char in any car, so if the pedestrian is already out of the car, and remember, when we extinguish the car, the game forces all of the passengers to get out. After that, the game sets them on fire using startCharFire command. And next, if script fire extinguished, then we register fire extinguished. Okay, pretty simple. The main takeaway is there are only 4 functions that can be useful to us. 2 of them are for starting fires, startCharFire for pedestrians and startCarFire for vehicles. And 2 of them work with both pets and chars, and that is script fire extinguished to check the current state of fire, and then simply to register fire extinguished. Now let's look at the Ammu-Nation code. Every shop has its own script, but they all are very similar, the case of copying and pasting. But anyway, first of all we create some objects, and those objects are weapons on the wall. Next we create the shopkeeper, but what we are really interested in is the menu itself. So, if we are in the marker, if dPadStateX variable is equal to 0, we don't know what that means yet, but it is important, the game is going to execute setPlayerControl off, it's going to turn our player to face the shopkeeper, it's going to do some stuff so the camera flies to the wall, next it's going to teleport us to the center of the marker, and it's going to freeze us in one position, and that's basically why we couldn't move even after we got the controls back. After this, the game has a loop, and this loop says if this variable doesn't change from 0, we're going to execute everything that's inside, and looks like this code is responsible for buying the weapon, because if we press cross on the controller or the corresponding key on the keyboard, we are going to get a weapon, in this case a pistol. So we can assume that this variable is somehow tied to the currently selected weapon. We can check this theory by looking at checkDPadState1 function. Let's go there and see. If we press left, the variable decreases by 1. If we press right, the variable increases by 1. If we reach either of the ends, it's gonna wrap around. So it really looks like this variable is basically the current selected weapon, with 0 being the leftmost one. Next it actually checks if we press triangle, which is the exit button, and if so, it unfreezes us and it gives the controls back. But that bit is clear. What was unclear, however, is why fires are extinguished only if we switch to the first weapon. And it's quite hard to answer this question, but what we can do, we can simply compare the first weapon to some other one. Let me quickly set that up. And we're going to compare the first one on the left to the second one on the right. And let's see what's present here on the left and it's not present here on the right. First things first is set player control off, only present on the left. Next, turning our player to the shopkeeper, also only on the left. The camera shenanigans look different, but I don't think it actually matters. And finally, freeze char position true is also only present on the left. So we have only 3 extra commands on the left: set player control off, turn player to face char, and freeze char position true. And it's safe to imagine that turning our player to face some other character should not affect fires in any way. So in the end we have only two commands that we should pay attention to. Time for REVC. For those who don't know, this is a reverse engineering project for GTA Vice City. And here we can see command star carfire and right next to it command star charfire. If we look closely, we'll see that these commands are almost identical and they both are calling start script fire. Let's see what's inside. First things first, we are checking the target. And if that target is already on fire, we extinguish that fire, only to set it on fire again. Pretty cruel. Right after that we are calling get next free fire. But what is a free fire? Let's see. Here we have a loop that goes from 0 to num fires, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Inside of this loop we are working with some array that is called A fires. We are checking each slot, and if in the current slot there is no fire, and if the current slot is not owned by the script, we return that slot. What does it all mean? Well, apparently there is a global array for all of the fires in the game. A fires. Whenever we start a fire, it's put into this array. Total length is num fires, which is 40. Okay. And this function basically goes through all of the slots one by one until it finds the first one that is free, that doesn't have a fire yet, and simply returns it. After that we can work with that slot and put our new fire into it. Alright, we know how to start fires, and we saw that we can extinguish them, but check it out. We extinguish some particular fire, but we are looking for something that can extinguish all of them. We can assume that this function is going to look similar to this one, probably a loop that goes from 0 to num fires and calls extinguish instead of returning a free slot. So let's look for something like that. For that we're going to press Shift plus F12 on the extinguish function and we get 17 results. We can actually go one by one and see which ones are interesting and which ones are not, or we can try to be a little bit smarter. So we think we're going to work with all of the fires. So it's logical to assume we are going to work with the A fires array. And since we assume there's gonna be a loop, there's gotta be some variable that is used to cycle through all of the slots. And usually programmers use variable names I, J, K for these things. And look, there is a fires with a variable I. Let's see what's inside. We end up in a function that is called extinguish point, and there it is, a loop from 0 to num fires, and we call extinguish if there is a fire ongoing in that slot, but there's also some other condition. Judging by the function name, we understand that we are actually extinguishing some point that we pass as the first parameter, so these are coordinates of that point, and there's also some range. So we understand that this is actually, I want to extinguish a fire in that point and within that range. And if that fire happens to be inside of this sphere, then it gets extinguished. Well, but we want to extinguish all of them. Are we even on the right track, or were our assumptions incorrect? Well, let's see how this function is called. Maybe there is something interesting about it. So once again, Shift plus F12. And yeah, there is some interesting call because see, range is 4000. But is that a big sphere or a small one? To answer that question, I'm going to be using a wonderful resource called ehgames.com/GTA/map. Link is in the description. This tool allows you to choose any GTA map, move around, zoom in, zoom out, toggle the zones and much more. We are currently interested in a feature that allows us to draw circles. So let's choose that and draw a little circle here at this crossroad. Let's pretend that this is our sphere, so everything that's inside is going to be extinguished. But as you can see, my sphere has a radius of only 196. We know that the radius must be 4000, so let's change that. Okay, looks like we need to zoom out a bit. Maybe not a bit. As you can see, this is a huge sphere, and no matter how I move it, where I move it, it always covers the whole map, meaning that all of the fires are going to be extinguished no matter where the center is. So what is this function called? Well, we actually end up in make player safe with toggle being equal to true. And we've already seen this function before, so if you watched my previous episodes, you might already know what command uses it. But if not, simply Shift plus F12, look for an argument being equal to true, and there it is. Set player control with an argument false. And it actually makes sense. When the game takes away the controls from us, it wants to ensure that we are actually safe. And it does a lot of things, and one of them is extinguishing all of the fires. And now everything lines up. We remember that set player control off was one of the commands that was present when we switched to the first weapon in the menu and was absent in any other. The last thing I didn't explain is how we get the controls when Vigilante fails, and that's pretty simple. Every mission has command mission has finished in the end. It is executed when you pass the mission, and it is executed when you fail the mission. And this command has only one function called mission cleanup process. If we scroll a bit further, we'll find SeaWorld players make players safe with an argument false. Let's go inside. This time the toggle is false, so we end up here. And look, CPAD set enable player controls, player control, player info. That's it. Time to sum it all up. You can fail Vigilante anywhere, even outside of the vehicle, and that allows us to gain the controls back. Unfortunately, we will be frozen, and to fix that we need to save the game. After reloading, the Ammu-Nation menu will still be here, and we will be able to move freely. This menu can be used in different ways. Speedrunners use it for an instant teleportation, special vehicle collectors to get cars from the stadium. We now know you can finish Firefighter with it. Fires are extinguished only when we switch to the first weapon. The game disables our controls and ensures we are safe by extinguishing all of the fires on the map. You might have noticed that this video does not contain a section where I explain how to fix the issue. This is because I think there are multiple valid approaches. Your challenge today is telling me how you would fix this bug. I just went over the whole chain that leads to extinguishing fires. Tell me which link you would break and how you would do that. And this is it for today. A poll for the next topic is already live. Click the link from the pinned comment and choose the option you like the most. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you don't want to miss the next episode, consider subscribing. My name is Wafil, see you the next time.